The pungent scent of genuine Terran potatoes wafted through the chaotic air of Xeno Bazaar. It was a rare aroma amid the clash of alien spices and synthetic food vapors that typically dominated Proxima Station's marketplace. Jace Morgan followed his nose, weaving between the throngs of interspecies traders and travelers that crowded the station's central hub. Jace adjusted his worn blue jacket and patted one of the many pockets on his utility vest, confirming the presence of his credit chip. He was a contractor, one of those humans who took the dangerous jobs transporting sensitive tech between colonies. The kind of work that kept a person moving, never settling too long in one place. It suited him just fine. "Ah, Jace Morgan, the Earthman returns," called Denabian from his stall. 6 tentacles, working simultaneously to prepare fresh batches of food. "I saved special batch for you. Real potato, real oil, real salt. Not synthetic like others sell." Jace smiled, appreciating the familiar routine. "Your memory remains impeccable, Denabian. For good customer, always remember," the alien merchant replied, his translucent skin flushing green with pleasure as he handed over a steaming package. "Extra crispy, as you prefer." These moments were precious to Jace, small tastes of Earth in the deep reaches of space. He paid, nodding his thanks, before heading toward the central fountain area, where he could enjoy his rare treat in relative peace. The Fountain Plaza was one of the few genuinely spacious areas on the cramped station, with actual plants imported from various worlds creating a semblance of nature. Jace found an empty bench near the trickling water feature and settled in, eager to savor his fries. He had just taken his first bite when he felt it, the unmistakable sensation of being watched. Glancing up mid-chew, Jace noticed a figure partially concealed behind a decorative shrub. A pair of vivid orange eyes gleamed from beneath a tattered hood, fixed intently on the package in his hands. As he looked closer, Jace could make out more details. The observer was a Philidian, recognizable by the blue fur visible around her face and the distinctive pointed ears that twitched subtly as she watched him. Her frame was slender, almost gaunt beneath the oversized cloak she wore. Hunger. Jace recognized it instantly in the way she stared at his food. Working the outer colonies had taught him to read desperation across species. Acting on impulse, Jace extended the package slightly in her direction. "Would you like some?" he asked, keeping his voice neutral. The Philidian startled, clearly not expecting to be noticed. For a moment, she seemed ready to flee. But then her eyes darted between Jace's face and the offered food. Cautiously, she emerged from behind the plant and approached with the deliberate grace characteristic of her species. She hesitated before reaching forward with a clawed hand, delicately selecting a single fry. With obvious restraint, she sniffed it first, then took a small bite. The reaction was immediate and intense. Her orange eyes widened, pupils dilating rapidly. The Philidian's ears perked straight up, and she quickly consumed the rest of the fry. A deep, rumbling sound, something between a purr and a sigh, emanated from her throat. "First time having Earth food?" Jace asked, amused by her reaction. Instead of answering, the Philidian dropped into a formal crouch, one fist pressed to her chest in what appeared to be a gesture of respect or deference. When she spoke, her voice was heavily accented but understandable. "I am Kira of the Night Shadow Pride," she announced solemnly. "You have shared sustenance with me in my time of need. By the traditions of my people, I now owe you a life debt until such time as it may be repaid." Jace blinked, fry halfway to his mouth. "I'm sorry, what?" "A life debt," Kira repeated earnestly. "I will guard your life as my own until I have saved you from certain death, thus balancing our exchange." "It was just a fry," Jace said, bewildered. "Not even a full meal. Certainly not worth—" "The value is not for you to determine," Kira interrupted, her tone indicating this was not negotiable. I accept this duty with honor. Before Jace could protest further, a Taurian merchant accidentally bumped into him while hurrying past. In an instant, Kira was on her feet, fur bristling as she positioned herself between Jace and the startled alien. A threatening growl rumbled from deep in her chest, causing the Taurian to back away rapidly, hands raised in apology. "What the—" Jace stood quickly, mortified. "You can't just growl at people." Kira maintained her protective stance. "He approached with aggression." "He bumped into me. Accidentally. That happens in crowded places." Jace noticed people were beginning to stare. "Look, we need to talk about this, but not here." As if to emphasize his point, a human woman approached, seemingly about to ask for directions. Before she could speak, Kira growled again, causing the woman to retreat hastily. "Is that your pet?" a passing security officer asked Jace, hand hovering near his stunner. "Dangerous species need to be registered and restrained on the station." "She's not a pet," Jace said quickly. "She's a cultural exchange participant. We're just having a small misunderstanding about local customs." The officer looked skeptical, but moved on after a stern warning about maintaining control. Jace turned to Kira, keeping his voice low. "We need to communicate better. There's a translation booth in the lower bazaar that might help. Follow me. But please, no more growling unless someone is actually attacking me." Kira nodded curtly, falling into step slightly behind Jace's right shoulder, a perfect guard position. The Vixillian's translation booth was tucked between a synthetic organ dealer and a memory crystal shop. The proprietor, a willowy being with silvery skin and no discernible facial features beyond 2 glimmering eye spots, greeted them with a melodic hum. "We need a temporary neural link," Jace explained. "Something basic for cross-species communication enhancement." The Vixillian's long fingers danced over a display panel. "Philidian to human compatibility. Yes, we have suitable models. Duration." Jace glanced at Kira, who maintained her vigilant posture. "Let's start with a day." After a brief negotiation and payment, the Vixillian provided 2 small discs. "Place against the temporal lobe area. Activation is automatic upon skin contact." Jace demonstrated with his disc, placing it against his temple where it adhered gently. Kira mirrored his action, a subtle shiver running through her as the device connected. "Can you understand me better now?" Jace asked. Kira's ears twitched. "Your words were clear before. Now I sense more intention, context." She tilted her head. "You are disturbed by my protection." "I'm disturbed by growling at innocent people," Jace clarified. "Look, I appreciate your cultural traditions, but I need to understand exactly what this life debt entails." Kira straightened proudly. "When one provides sustenance that prevents death, as you did for me, for I had not eaten in 3 cycles, the recipient is bound to protect and serve until they have saved the provider from certain death. This is the way of balance." "But I wasn't saving you from certain death," Jace protested. "It was just a snack." "I would have found sustenance eventually," Kira acknowledged. "But you provided it at the moment of need. The timing matters in our tradition." Her orange eyes fixed on him intently. "You cannot reject a life debt once offered. It would bring great dishonor." Jace sighed, running a hand through his short hair. "So you're going to follow me around and growl at people until you save my life?" "I will guard you against all threats until the debt is balanced," Kira confirmed solemnly. "I am a hunter rank warrior. My skills are considerable." "Former hunter rank," she added after a pause, her ears flattening slightly. "I was separated from my pride after refusing orders that violated my conscience." That explained the ragged appearance and hunger. Jace realized. She was essentially an outcast. "All right," he conceded, recognizing he wouldn't win this cultural argument. "But we need ground rules. First, no growling unless there's actual danger. Second, I need to understand what you consider danger. Third, I have work to do, and I can't have you scaring everyone I interact with. Kira considered this. I will teach you our danger signals. You will teach me human interaction protocols. This is acceptable. Great, Jace said, not feeling particularly enthusiastic about his new blue-furred shadow. Let's start with the basics. Humans generally maintain personal space, but accidental contact isn't considered threatening. For the next hour, they exchanged cultural information. Jace learned that Philidians communicated as much through scent and subtle ear positions as through words. While Kira attempted to grasp the concept of human social pleasantries, she deemed unnecessary sound exchanges. As they walked back through the bazaar, Jace checked the time display on his comm unit. I have a pickup scheduled at Dock 17 in 30 minutes. It's a simple package retrieval. Nothing dangerous. I will accompany you, Kira stated, rather than asked. What is the nature of this package? Just tech components, Jace said vaguely. The truth was, he didn't always ask for specifics about his deliveries. Plausible deniability kept life simpler in the gray areas of interstellar shipping. Dock 17 was located in the station's commercial district, away from the passenger terminals. Unlike the bustling main docks, this area was quieter, with larger cargo bays and fewer security scanners, perfect for goods that fell into regulatory gray areas. As they approached the designated meeting point, Jace noticed Kira's demeanor change subtly. Her ears swiveled independently, scanning for sounds, and her steps became nearly silent. Something's wrong, she whispered, dropping into a slight crouch. Multiple heartbeats ahead, more than expected. How many should be expected? Jace asked, slowing his pace. You tell me, it's your meeting. Just one contact, Jace admitted, now concerned. Decker. He's a broker I've worked with before. Kira's nostrils flared. I detect 3 distinct scents. 1 Taurian, 2 human. Her lip curled slightly. And weapon oil. Before Jace could respond, a voice called out from around the corner. Morgan? That you? Come on in. Got your package ready. Jace hesitated, then whispered to Kira. Stay close, but don't attack unless they make a move first. They rounded the corner to find Decker, a heavy-set human with augmented vision implants, standing beside a small shipping container. 2 figures lingered in the shadows behind him, another human and a Taurian, both trying too hard to look casual. Decker, Jace greeted, keeping his voice neutral. Didn't realize this was a group meeting. Last-minute change of plans, Decker said with a forced smile. My associates are helping with quality control. I wasn't informed of any inspection requirements, Jace replied, tension building in his shoulders. He sensed Kira shifting her weight beside him, ready to spring. Just open the crate, verify the contents, and we'll transfer payment, Decker insisted, his hand drifting toward his pocket. It happened in an instant. As Decker reached, Kira launched forward with startling speed. Before anyone could react, she had pinned the Taurian against the wall, her claws extended dangerously close to his throat. Simultaneously, Jace ducked as the second human pulled a pulse weapon, only to have Kira's foot connect with his wrist in a precise strike that sent the weapon clattering across the floor. Decker fumbled for his own weapon, but Jace was ready, driving an elbow into the broker's solar plexus, while simultaneously sweeping his legs. As Decker hit the ground, Jace retrieved the fallen pulse weapon and aimed it at the group. So, Jace said conversationally, despite his racing heart, not a routine pickup after all. The Taurian, still pinned by Kira's claws, gurgled something that sounded like surrender. The second human remained motionless on the floor where he'd fallen. Check the package, Jace instructed Kira, keeping the weapon trained on Decker. Kira approached the container cautiously, her sensitive nose twitching as she examined it without touching. Sealed environment inside. Biological component. Her eyes narrowed. And something else. chemical signature similar to explosives. Jace's blood ran cold. A bomb? They were setting me up with a biological weapon. Triggered package, Decker gasped, still winded from the blow. Set to activate when it reaches Helios Colony. Would have been blamed on you. Who? Jace demanded, pressing the weapon against Decker's temple. Who hired you? Blackwood, the broker admitted, wincing. Naomi Blackwood. Said you needed to disappear after that FTL drive data you leaked. Jace felt sick. He'd transported sensitive FTL drive schematics last year, but had no idea they'd attract this level of attention or revenge. We need to leave, Kira stated urgently. Others will come looking for these three if they don't report back. What about the package? Leave it. It's evidence of their plan, and station security will trace it back to them. Jace nodded, quickly binding Decker and his associates with cargo straps before triggering a general security alert from a nearby terminal. By the time station officers arrived, he and Kira were already several corridors away, blending into the crowd. You saved me, Jace said, once they were safely back in the residential section. That's your life debt fulfilled, isn't it? Kira shook her head. They did not yet attack. I prevented danger, but you were not in imminent death. The debt remains. Jace sighed, but found himself strangely relieved. Well, then we need to figure out who this Blackwood is and why she wants me dead. I have a contact who might know. An information broker at Club Paradox. The elite establishment in the upper levels, Kira asked. I cannot enter such a place. My appearance would be noticed. She gestured to her ragged clothing and distinctive blue fur. We'll get you something more suitable, Jace decided. If Blackwood has enough influence to arrange this kind of setup, we'll need all the help we can get. 2 hours later, Kira looked remarkably different. Her blue fur was partially concealed beneath a fashionable high-collared jacket that could pass as the latest xenomorphic trend among wealthy humans. Her claws were covered with decorative sheaths that resembled expensive jewelry, and her tattered cloak had been replaced with flowing dark fabrics that complemented her natural coloration. How do humans move in these constraints? She muttered, adjusting the collar that partially obscured her facial features. You look like an eccentric socialite with exotic genetic modifications, Jace assured her. Perfect for Club Paradox. The club occupied the entire top level of a luxury tower, offering panoramic views of the space surrounding Proxima Station. Inside, bioluminescent fixtures cast ever-changing patterns across walls, lined with rare materials from a dozen worlds. Gravity modulators created subtle variations in weight as patrons moved through different sections, adding to the disorienting atmosphere. Jace approached the host, a serene-looking Arcturian whose skin shifted colors to match the club's lighting. We're here to see Alara Voss. The host's eyes flickered with recognition. Ms. Voss is selective about her consultations. Jace slipped a memory crystal across the counter. Tell her it concerns Arcturus Europa FTL advancements. They were directed to a private booth in the rear of the club, isolated from others by sound-dampening fields. Alara Ara Voss was already waiting, her silver-streaked hair elaborately styled in a way that accentuated the subtle neural interface nodes visible at her temples, marks of her former intelligence career. Morgan, she greeted without warmth. I was wondering when you'd surface, and your companion is... Cultural attaché, Jace replied smoothly. We need information about Naomi Blackwood. Ara's expression hardened. Dangerous territory. What's your interest? She tried to frame me for bioterrorism today. I'd like to know why. Ara studied him for a long moment before gesturing to the seats across from her. Blackwood runs Sentinel Dynamics now, private security firm on paper, but really a broker for military tech and classified operations. And her grudge against me? That FTL data you transported last year? It was heading to research facilities working on advancements that would make her clients' proprietary systems obsolete. Ara's lips curved in a humorless smile. You cost her syndicate billions in future contracts. I was just the courier, Jace protested. I didn't even know what was in the package. Irrelevant to her. Blackwood eliminates variables that threaten her operations. Aura leaned forward. Word is, she's arranged something big at the Europa Research Station, where they're implementing those very FTL advancements. Kira, who had remained silent, suddenly spoke. A sabotage operation. Aura's eyes shifted to the Philidian, reassessing. Your attaché is perceptive. Yes. My sources indicate a plan to destroy the Europa facility and blame it on anti-tech extremists, with evidence conveniently pointing to you as their supplier. When? Jace demanded. Soon. Within the next 48 hours. Era glanced around, before sliding a data chip across the table. This contains security access codes for the Europa facility, unofficial backdoors. I suggest you use them quickly. As they left the club, Jace's mind raced. We need transport to Europa immediately. This is a trap, Kira observed bluntly. What? How do you figure? The information broker provided solution too readily. Security codes freely given. She works for this Blackwood. Jace considered this, then shook his head. Aura and I have history. She's not working for Blackwood. They operate in competing spheres. But you're right to be cautious. The codes might be compromised. Then we create our own path, Kira stated. I know someone in the docking authority. For sufficient payment, he can expedite launch clearance for private vessels. Jace raised an eyebrow. You've been on this station, what, a few days? And you already have contacts in Port Authority? Kira's whiskers twitched in what might have been amusement. Philidians observe. We learn quickly who controls access to essential resources. 6 hours later, they were aboard the Starbound, a small, interplanetary shuttle Jace had chartered, using nearly all his available credits. The vessel was Spartan, but well-maintained, with just enough range to reach Jupiter's moon Europa and return to Proxima Station if necessary. Europa surface temperature averages negative 160 degrees Celsius, Jace explained, as they approached the icy moon. The research facility is built into the ice crust, with most sections buried under the surface for protection from radiation and micrometeorites. Kira, examining the environmental suits they would need for the surface crossing, nodded. And our plan for entry? We'll request emergency landing clearance, citing a medical situation. Once inside the outer perimeter, we'll use maintenance access ways to reach Sector 7. That's where the primary FTL research labs are located. And if we encounter resistance? Jace checked the stunner he'd acquired before departure. Non-lethal responses only. These are scientists and security personnel just doing their jobs. As you wish, Kira agreed, though her tone suggested she found the restriction unnecessary. Their approach to Europa went smoother than expected. The emergency medical pretext gained them immediate clearance to land in an auxiliary bay, close enough to the main facility to minimize exposure time on the surface. Donning the environmental suits was awkward for Kira, whose physiology differed significantly from the human form the suits were designed for. With some adjustments, however, they managed to create a sealed environment that would protect her from the lethal cold. Movement will be restricted, she warned, testing her range of motion in the bulky suit. Combat efficiency reduced by 60%. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Jace replied, sealing his own helmet. They exited the shuttle into the biting cold of Europa. Even through the insulated suits, the extreme temperature made itself felt. They moved as quickly as the conditions allowed, following Jace's nav point toward a maintenance airlock that, according to Aura's intelligence, should have minimal security monitoring. Just as they reached the airlock, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Security breach detected in Sector 7, announced an automated system, the sound carrying through their helmet comms. All personnel implement lockdown protocols. We're too late, Jace realized with horror. The sabotage is already underway. The airlock cycled them into a pressurized antechamber, where they hurriedly removed their environmental suits. As Kira freed herself from the cumbersome gear, Jace accessed a facility terminal with an emergency override code he'd been given during a previous legitimate contract with the research station. "Sector 7 is completely sealed," he reported grimly. "But there's a maintenance tunnel that runs beneath it. We might be able to access it through the secondary cooling system junction." They moved quickly through the facility's less trafficked corridors, avoiding the security teams that were scrambling to respond to the breach. The research station's layout was complex, with multiple redundant systems designed to ensure the sensitive experiments remained stable, even during emergencies. As they approached the cooling system junction, the environmental alerts intensified. "Critical thermal anomaly detected in Sector 7 primary containment. Coolant pressure exceeding safety parameters." "They're overheating the FTL test chamber," Jace explained as they ran. "If the cooling system fails completely, the experimental drive components will destabilize and explode," Kira finished for him, "destroying evidence and creating the incident they desire." The junction was a cramped space filled with pipes and control mechanisms. Steam hissed from pressure release valves, and warning lights flashed on multiple panels. Jace quickly identified the access panel they needed. "This leads directly to the underside of Sector 7, he said, working to override the security lock. "Once inside, we'll need to manually activate the emergency cooling protocols and stop whoever's causing this." The panel finally yielded, sliding open to reveal a narrow maintenance crawlway. They entered quickly, Kira taking the lead with her superior night vision, guiding them through the dimly lit passage. The temperature rose noticeably as they progressed, the metal walls becoming uncomfortably hot to touch. Finally, they reached another access panel, this one leading upward into Sector 7 itself. "Heat signatures," Kira whispered, her sensitive ears flattened against her head. "Two humanoids at the main control station. They are altering the cooling system regulators." Jace nodded grimly. "On 3, we go in. Priority is stabilizing the system before confronting them." They burst through the panel into chaos. Sector 7 was bathed in pulsing red emergency lights. Steam billowed from multiple junctions, where pipes strained against excessive pressure. At the central control station, 2 figures worked frantically at the controls, deliberately overriding safety protocols. The saboteurs spun at the intrusion, one drawing a weapon while the other continued the sabotage sequence. "Stop them!" Jace shouted as he lunged toward the nearest emergency controls. Kira moved with astonishing speed despite the heat and confined space. She intercepted the armed saboteur, her claws slashing through the weapon's power cell before delivering a precise strike that rendered the human unconscious. Jace reached the emergency override panel, quickly inputting the sequence to activate the auxiliary cooling system. The second saboteur abandoned the control station to attack him, but Jace was ready. A quick feint, followed by a solid connection to the jaw, sent the attacker staggering back. "The manual release valve!" Jace called to Kira, pointing to a massive wheel mechanism on the far wall. "It requires significant force to activate." While Jace secured the second saboteur and continued stabilizing the digital systems, Kira raced to the manual override. The valve was designed for emergency use, requiring strength beyond normal human capability to operate without powered assistance. Bracing herself, Kira gripped the valve wheel, her muscles strained as she applied pressure, the metal groaning in protest. With a feral growl that echoed her ancestors' battle cries, she channeled every ounce of her Philidian strength into the effort. The valve finally yielded, rotating slowly at first, then with increasing speed. Immediately, the emergency cooling system engaged, flooding the overheated components with supercooled liquid. Steam exploded from release vents as the critical temperature indicators began to drop. "Containment stabilizing," reported the facility's automated system. "Emergency cooling protocols engaged." Jace finished securing the saboteurs just as the door to Sector 7 slid open. A security team rushed in, weapons raised, followed by a tall, slender figure in a lab coat. Hold your fire, the newcomer commanded. These two prevented catastrophic failure. The security team hesitated, then lowered their weapons as they took in the scene. The unconscious saboteurs, the manually activated emergency systems, and the still hissing steam valves that indicated how close they'd come to disaster. Dr. Eleanor Charleston, the tall figure, introduced herself, extending a hand to Jace. Chief Researcher, you have my profound gratitude. Mr. Morgan, Jace Morgan. He accepted the handshake, wincing slightly at a burn he'd received during the confrontation. And this is Kira. Dr. Charleston observed the Philidian with undisguised curiosity, but maintained a respectful distance. How did you know about the sabotage attempt? It's complicated, Jace admitted. But these two were working for Naomi Blackwood. She's been attempting to eliminate me and disrupt your FTL research simultaneously. The chief researcher's expression hardened. Blackwood? I should have known. Her consortium has been trying to access our research for months. She gestured to the security team. Take these two into custody and secure all evidence. I want a full investigation into their connection to Sentinel Dynamics. As the unconscious saboteurs were removed, Dr. Charleston turned back to Jace and Kira. You'll need to provide full statements, of course. But first, let's get those burns treated. Our medical facility is just one level up. In the medical bay, as their injuries were tended to, Jace recounted the events that had led them to Europa. Dr. Charleston listened intently, occasionally making notes on her personal device. The attempt to frame you for bioterrorism. The sabotage here. It fits Blackwood's methodology, she confirmed. She's become increasingly desperate since losing the military contracts to our research group. Will you pursue action against her? Kira asked, wincing slightly, as a medic applied regenerative gel to her burned hands. With the evidence we've secured from the saboteurs, combined with your testimony, and whatever you recovered from the original package, we have enough to initiate a formal investigation. Dr. Charleston's expression was grim, but satisfied. Blackwood's influence is substantial, but not unlimited. This crosses too many lines to ignore. And what about us? Jace inquired cautiously. I did enter your facility under false pretenses. Dr. Charleston waved a hand dismissively. You prevented what would have been a catastrophic failure. The experimental drive components would have created an explosion powerful enough to breach the ice crust. Countless lives saved outweighs any regulatory infraction. She smiled thinly. I'll ensure the official record reflects that you were responding to an urgent security consultation at my request. Later, as they prepared to return to their shuttle, Kira grew unusually quiet. They stood in a small observation area, gazing out at Europa's icy landscape, illuminated by Jupiter's distant glow. The life debt is fulfilled, Jace finally said, breaking the silence. You saved me from certain death back there. Those coolant pipes would have ruptured if you hadn't manually activated the valve. Kira nodded slowly, her orange eyes reflecting the external lights. Yes, by the traditions of my people, our arrangement is complete. Her ears flattened slightly. I am free to go my own way. Is that what you want? Jace asked, surprised by the reluctance he felt at the prospect. Want? Kira tested the word as if it were unfamiliar. Philidian tradition does not typically consider want in matters of duty and honor. But you're not with your pride anymore, Jace pointed out gently. Perhaps you get to decide what traditions you keep. Kira's whiskers twitched thoughtfully. Where will you go now? With Blackwood exposed, is your path clear? Hardly, Jace laughed. There's always someone looking to settle a score or create trouble in the outer colonies. But I've been thinking about taking the Starbound on a longer journey, perhaps exploring the new territories beyond the Cygnus corridor. Such a journey would be dangerous for a lone human, Kira observed, a new light entering her eyes. True, a skilled warrior would be an invaluable companion. Jace met her gaze directly. especially one who already understands my peculiar human habits. You suggest a new arrangement beyond the life debt? A partnership, Jace clarified. Equal standing, shared decisions, mutual protection. Not because of tradition or obligation, but because we choose it. For the first time since they'd met. Kira's serious expression transformed into something resembling a smile, revealing just the tips of her sharp canines. Such an arrangement has no precedent in Philidian tradition. Then we'll make our own tradition, Jace suggested, extending his hand. After a moment's consideration, Kira placed her clawed hand in his. I accept this. Partnership. 2 days later, they returned to Jace's modest apartment on Proxima Station. The official investigation into Blackwood's operations was proceeding, with Earth authorities taking particular interest in the attempted sabotage of crucial FTL research. As promised, Dr. Charleston had ensured they faced no repercussions for their unorthodox entry to the facility. In fact, she had provided them with a modest reward from the Research Foundation's discretionary fund, enough to cover repairs and upgrades to the Starbound for their planned expedition. Jace stood in his small kitchen area, carefully monitoring a cooking pot. The scent of frying potatoes filled the apartment. Is this another Earth tradition? Kira asked from her perch on a countertop, her tail swishing with interest. A personal one, Jace replied, fishing golden potato strips from the hot oil. My grandmother taught me how to make these properly. Said the synthesized ones never tasted right. He sprinkled salt over the freshly cooked fries, then transferred them to a serving container. With a small flourish, he presented them to Kira. Since it was fries that started this whole adventure, it seemed fitting to celebrate with them. Kira accepted one reverently, the familiar rumbling purr beginning in her chest as she savored the taste. The circle completes, she observed, from one offering to another. But this time, no life debts, Jace reminded her with a smile. Just two friends sharing a meal before an adventure. Friends, Kira repeated, testing the word. Her orange eyes gleamed with warmth. Yes, this word fits our new tradition well. Outside the viewport of Jace's apartment, the vast expanse of space stretched into infinity, dotted with the lights of distant worlds and possibilities. The Starbound waited in its dock, prepped and ready for their departure the following day. As they shared the simple Earth food that had unexpectedly changed both their lives, Jace found himself grateful for the impulsive moment of kindness that had brought this fierce, loyal alien into his life. And Kira, free for the first time to choose her own path rather than follow rigid tradition, discovered that sometimes the greatest adventures began with the smallest gestures. Together, they looked toward the stars that would soon become their road, bound not by obligation or ancient tradition, but by something far more powerful. A friendship forged in danger and sealed with golden, crispy Earth potatoes.